Okay, it looks like we got our live stream running. So we'll get started. I'm Moshe, and I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee where I live. Today's November 14th, I think it is, and it's about 8:26, I think, something like that. No, it's about 8:28 in the morning. And we have rain, and we're getting continued rain, which is really the first time. We're at 64 degrees now, which is cool for us. The dogs love it. That's like a really perfect temperature for them. And what's our high going to be today? It's going to be in the 60s for the high because we're going to be getting those thunder showers. And tomorrow again, with the same kind of high, 69. And then Sunday we get sunny, it goes to the low 70s, and we keep getting sun. And by the end of next week, we're in the 80s again, and low 80s. So just going to have a little bit of a cold spot and then bounce back. But it's the first real rains of the year. But it's not like raining for 4 hours in a row or anything. It's a burst and then it clears. So we let the dogs out, and then they come back in when it rains and they go back out. I think they think that's fun. It's diversionary. It's interesting, and they kind of like it. Okay. So today we're going to talk about several things. Trump and his moronic proposal to the UN Security Council, which is meeting objections from many countries as predicted. And Trump should have known this. What's wrong with him? Russia and China are immediately kicking against it. So his idea of, we're going to set up a peacekeeping force and it's going to have multiple countries on a board of directors kind of concept, and I'm going to be the head of it. And, not only did China and Russia, tell him go fly a kite, several Arab states did too. So he's got no support. You got to understand the idiot threatens Russia, feeds Ukraine weapons for years, puts Marco Rubio recently said, I think yesterday, that they've done every kind of sanction they can on Russia. There's nowhere else to go. They ran it out. So what does this idiot think? Russia's going to jump in there and say, yeah, we'll support Trump in Gaza. What is wrong with this guy? You understand what I'm saying? An eighth grader should understand that China and Russia, with the sanctions and the tariffs, are going to oppose him. Because if they don't oppose him, he's never going to stop doing tariffs and sanctions, right? Okay. So what is he trying to do? Is he so stupid, like a bag of hammers, he doesn't know they're going to oppose it? I don't know. I'll go 50% on that one. The other thing is he's just going through the motions to try to make people think he's doing something good. So, there's a mention of a Palestinian state someday down the road, maybe, in his proposal to the UN Security Council, which, in my opinion, was nothing more than Trump shining on the other countries to make them think he's open to it. It wasn't anything firm or anything like that, so I wouldn't put credence in that. But anyway, it's not going anywhere. I mean, Trump could keep beating it in the UN Security Council, but it's a joke. It died. So now, we'll cover that. We'll cover Netanyahu. We'll cover some things, what's going on in Israel with the measles outbreak. and some economic stuff, and then we'll talk about Apostle John and some prophecy. Okay, so I'm gonna go get myself into this moronic new format chat that YouTube dreamed up, which is horrible. Maybe I don't know how to work it, but I doubt it. It's into this moronic new format chat that YouTube dreamed up, which is horrible. Maybe I don't know how to work it, but it's. Well, we got sound and picture. Let me shut that off and. All right, I'm going to put up a post in here and take a few seconds, and then we'll give people a chance to come in, and then we'll get going. Okay. All right, got that done. Being a Bible believing site, let's do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So there's a measles outbreak in Israel. So we've had in recent weeks or days 1,700 cases and several deaths. I was told that Tiberias, Israel, which is a city of 40,000, is under lockdown due to the measles, but I cannot get a confirm on that yet. I think it's something they just did maybe last night or something, and it hasn't gotten out in the media where I could get a confirm on it, but I'll find out soon enough, you know. And Netanyahu, the curse of Israel, is going around, they're pushing the people to get the vaccination for the measles. Well, I'm not going to elaborate on that. Now, if Tiberias got locked down, I would assume other cities got locked down, and I'm not hearing that. So why just Tiberias? I don't know. There was a military exercise going on in Tiberias recently. And I read because they determined that Tiberias was the epicenter of the disease. I can't get a confirm on that, on the lockdown. Well, I read it on the news. I think it was 12. Oh, okay. Well, my wife seems to think she it did get it confirmed, and they did get a lockdown, and they're saying it's the epicenter of it. Maybe it is the epicenter. But when we had COVID, there might have been an epicenter, but we never heard about it, and the whole place got locked down. So let's see what happens. Um, you see, when you're dealing with a narcissistic, complete psychotic like Netanyahu, you who has a serious breach of reality, very serious. The world to him is nothing, it doesn't look anything like what it looks like to you. Um, he, um, because the people are trying to vote him out of office and put him in jail for corruption and investigate him for October 7th, which he should get investigated for. And, they get vindictive and vengeful against the people. They do. So where did this measles epidemic come from? You got my drift? I don't know. Is it going on around the world? I don't know. Let's see. Let's find out. I can get that looked up pretty quick. Is there a measles epidemic right now in several different countries around the world? See, AI is good for that because it'll search it out in a few seconds, where it would take me a long time. Yeah, stuff is going on. The Pan American Health Organization, I guess that's, I don't know, Central South America, I don't know, something like that, has lost its measles elimination status due to outbreaks, especially in countries like Canada, Mexico, and the United States. Oh, so it covers North America. North America is Canada, Mexico, and the United States. A lot of people don't know that, but that's what it is. Mexico is in North America, which is just, legalese talk. You don't hear about a lot of snow and blizzards and hail and ice and slush in Mexico, do you? But it is in North America. That's how they define it. It should be in Central America, but that's the way it is. Okay. In the European and Central Asia region, there were about 127,000 cases in 2024. And that's the highest since 1997. In the Americas, as of August 2025, more than 10,000 confirmed cases and 18 deaths across 10 countries, representing a 34-fold increase compared to the same period in 2024. See, really, you go years without hearing about measles, So something went wrong. Somebody's probably introduced it or something. I don't know. In the Western Pacific region, countries like Cambodia, Laos, Mongolia, Malaysia, Philippines are reporting outbreaks. North America, Canada has recorded Canada, it's saying, has recorded more than 5,000 cases in 2025 and lost its measles-free status. So now the jackasses are likely going to start requiring measles vaccination for people traveling. is highly contagious. But the deal is, if you've had it, you're probably never going to get it again. But to push the vax, they start telling you your immunity would wear off. When I was a kid, there was no measles, mumps, or chickenpox vaccination. So when one of the kids got sick, the parents would bring their children around the one that was sick to play there and you would get it because they preferred mumps, especially that the kids would catch mumps when they're young, because when they're older it can be way more problematic. And then measles was the same, and chickenpox was the same. So you had fevers with measles, but it wasn't that bad. Mostly the outbreak of the itchy bumps, and chickenpox was the same. And you had to stay out of school until you had a certain amount of healing of the, the bumps, that you got. Uh, Sometimes I think they sent you to the school nurse to inspect it. I can't remember, but that's how they did it. Um, then when I worked for the government, they gave me 3 vaccinations at the same time. One of these, I was on a military base and they were using medics, and one would get you in the left arm, the other would get you in the right arm. And they had another one that did that thing where they had a little, it looked like the needle part of the syringe, and they held it and they scratched your arm up, and then they put this stuff on it to get in your bloodstream, I guess. I think that was smallpox. I don't remember what the other two. One of them was smallpox. One was diphtheria, and I don't know. The other could have been bubonic, or I don't remember. Um, and they have, it was a law enforcement job, and they have guys watching the people getting the shots all at the same time to see who passes out. I didn't see anybody pass out, but I heard somebody did. I think somebody did. I don't remember. Maybe not. But it wasn't any, great big deal. Um, I don't know how long that stuff lasts. No idea.
Okay, looks like we've got our live stream
Let
running,
me shut this off.
so we'll get started.
So annoying. I tell you, it's just. I'm rather convinced that they make changes in everything on the internet to make it worse for you. I think that's what Satan does. It makes it worse, makes it harder. I'm convinced of it because there's no changes that I ever noticed that are intuitive. Look at what they did with the shorts at YouTube. People are generating shorts with artificial intelligence. You can buy programs rather inexpensively. I would say the most you'd ever have to pay for this, the most would be $300 a month, probably more like 30 or 50. And you get the use of one of these artificial intelligence things. And they could generate a video for you. Most of the time, I think you're going to be restricted to about 3 minutes, unless you spend more money. Then you could, look, if you're going to drop $2,000 a month, they probably let you make an artificial intelligence movie for an hour and a half. So I've seen people make Star Trek movies, and they get rid of William Shatner, Captain Kirk, and they put Elvis in there. Both very transactional critters. And not only do you see Elvis in Star Trek's uniform. You see Elvis in the ship with Spock and Uhura and the others with them. So I think what AI does is it watches the video of Star Trek and it copies it. It could do that. And so that would more or less end the copyright restriction because it generated its own. And it would have differences that, YouTube's artificial intelligence would detect that it wasn't made, it wasn't the actual Star Trek footage, it was something mimicking it, which means it's not a copyright violation, it's something else, if you're going to call it a violation. And Elvis's voice was perfect in there. Elvis's face was perfect. It was moving, his mouth, his lips, he's walking. I mean, and his role was very Elvis-like from his movies, very aggressive Star Trek captain, right? And very much like him in it. He was even singing songs. It was about a 3-minute video. And they did Elvis in a number of other settings, not just Captain Kirk, many different things I saw. So somebody got their hands on a AI video maker. And I think if you get Gemini paid version, which is probably $25 a month, it'll do it. I think. I got the Gemini free version and I'm very, very pleased with it. It's free, but it's very good. I'm still watching to see if Grok improves because it was at one time very, very good, briefly. And then everybody was subscribing to it, and then it got oversold, and it's extremely busy. And Elon Musk isn't as crackerjack of a businessman as I thought because he hasn't fixed it yet. And the upgrade, I have the cheap, I don't know, $20, $30 a month. And then there's an upgrade to that. That's $300, I believe, roughly $300 a month. And who the heck's going to do that? You really, for $300, you really need to have a large business with some sort of need for that. It's helping coders, people that are programming apps and stuff like that. They generally, what I understand is they code the app, and frequently it won't work or work right because they got a bug in it and they don't know what it is, and then they run it through artificial intelligence and it finds the bug and fixes it. So I would think in a few months, very short period of time, you'll be able to buy an AI that will make apps for you. In other words, I want an app that does this, that, and the other thing, right? And it'll write it. I don't know whether they'll charge you for things like this. People would pay, easily, 3, 4, 500 a month, something like that, to use something like this. And they would generate apps like crazy, and then apps would be selling for 15 cents, 39 cents. Who's going to pay $10, $20 for an app when they'll flood the market? People will look at apps that are selling, and then they'll make a competitive product and try to sell it. This is so. The programmers, the coders, whatever you want to call them, are going to be pretty much out of business. I would think if it doesn't exist yet, it shortly will exist in weeks or months. AI website builders, where you sit there and you just talk to it and you tell it what you want for a website, and it'll just build it for you. You can give it images. It can make images, colors, give it the text, links, different pages. It might take you a few days to, keep correcting it to get it where you want it. And then it'll upload it to your server. I would think it would, or it wouldn't be effective. And that's going to change things. That means anybody that wants to make a website just goes someplace where they have this AI website builder, and maybe it's $30 or $49 a month or whatever. It wouldn't be a lot. So you pay for a month or 2 months. Maybe you got to debug it, and then you cut it off and you've got your website. But maybe you don't know how to work on it. You may need it. It'll probably build the website in such a way that you'll need it. But people subscribe to that and they'll make 5 websites a day. They'll run around making all kinds of stuff. So it's going to flood Google with garbage. They'll copy other people's websites. They'll wreck the Google algorithm. Oh, it's going to be a zoo. Good, let Google suffer. It's going to really make them suffer. They'll use AI to combat it, but it won't work. The kids will flood Google. I mean, when I say flood, you might start seeing 7, 8, 9 million new websites every month. 12 more, 15 million, I don't know. A lot of them will be copycats, fraud sites, try to get you to place an order. And they'll just steal your credit card as soon as you input your order. That credit card within 10 minutes will be used to fraud on the internet. And what that'll do to internet commerce will be ugly because they'll copy the website rather perfectly. You think Google's going to trust it, investigate it, and forget that? Google's a curse. Don't think it's not. Before I always thought the CIA runs Google or owns it. And before you had Google, you had 7 dominant search engines. Lycos, Yahoo was a good one once upon a time. Yahoo actually used to check every website in their index with a live person. I can't remember all of them, but there were 7. And if you wanted to promote your business, you had to get in 3 or 4 out of the 7. And they had one website that nobody paid much attention to that was paid per click. And clicks were 4 cents, 8 cents, 11 cents, 2 cents. Now you can get clicks for $50. Google turned it into a whorehouse, of course. They ruined the internet. People say other things ruined the internet. No, Google ruined the internet. See, I can't remember the name of the search engine. Disney bought it and lost their shirt on it. But it was a really big, popular search engine in the 90s. And you were able to put your websites up and they would index in the search engine in 30 seconds, 10 seconds. So what did that do? It enabled you to run specials and sales. Okay? Now, if your website is in Google search engine, in other words, you got them to index you. Now, I know somebody who's been working on the internet for 20 years anyway, more. And this person studies the search engines because has clients, and he told me that they have no idea what Google does to index people now. It used to be links. how many other websites link to you and the quality of the website linking to you. So if you were there in ABC or CBS or AP linked to you, it really counted a lot, you know. And then there was keyword usage, and it was many things. Nobody knows what they do now. Nobody knows. But they're not going to index you for many months or years or ever. And this discrimination against you is to force you to buy Google pay-per-clicks and feed them money every time somebody clicks on you. So what these bums did, and I'll give you an analogy of this in a minute, they took a good search engine that would let you see if you have a website in there and then you change the website and you put on there Black Friday sale, Nike running shoes minus 63%, all models, something like that, right? That wouldn't show in Google for ages, okay? But you were able to put these changes up and put the stuff in this particular search engine, and it appeared immediately. So people used it for shopping. You understand? If it was a store in your area, you could check it, you could check in Google. They just ruined it. They ruined it. Okay? And you don't find what you want, commercially speaking, in Google unless somebody pays Google a lot of money. And the way that works is with the pay-per-click is people compete with you. And what they have a habit of doing is running the price per click up to the point where you just break even. You're wasting your time. Google ruined the internet. Trust me, they ruined it. Monopolistic practices. They're trying to dismantle it, but we'll hit redemption before they get it fixed. YouTube. Going back, I'm not sure how many years. I know if you go back 10 years, you were able to find all movies on YouTube for free. You were able to get, like, let's say, all the James Bond movies, all the Back to the Future movies, all the Mission Impossible movies. You got the idea? You were able to get all the TV series you wanted. Now, a lot of times the quality wasn't so good, I grant you that, but a lot of times it was. Any of the old TV shows you were able to get, okay? All the old Humphrey Bogart movies. Now, Humphrey Bogart movies have gone past the 75 years for copyright, yet you can't post a Humphrey Bogart movie that's popular on YouTube. Now, there's a few Humphrey Bogart movies that aren't very popular that they let you post on YouTube. But YouTube sells these old movies to you. And people are dumb enough and they buy them. It used to be whatever you want. If you wanted to watch Star Trek, you just punched it in and you found it. Or you wanted to watch Star Wars. But any of these things, any of the show, now they charge you for this stuff. And then the TV shows, they sell you each episode $2, $3. It used to be you would go to the station, the ABC, NBC, and find it, and they had all the old episodes there, and you could watch them. I don't think they do that anymore. So then what do you got to do? You got to join Prime or Disney or something like that, and then you could look at some of the stuff. But they're horrible what they did, And then they kept closing the sites. And the movie stars, the ones that people love, these were the son of a guns doing it. They're the ones doing it so they could get, money. Now, what do they get? They get nothing. The movie winds up on, I don't know, Netflix, everything is free. Disney, everything is free. So those are the really good platforms. Amazon Prime hands it out like water to people that do business with Amazon very inexpensively. And you get access to many things. You get their audio books, you get music, you get the Prime videos, and you get other things with it that I don't even pay attention to. What they try to do with Amazon Prime is nothing more than get you to buy stuff. Like they try to get you to buy a movie from the 1990s for $5 or $10. You know, it's sad what they've done to the internet. So, what do these people make, the movie stars, when somebody buys the movie at Amazon? What do they make? Pennies. Pennies. Depends what it's at. They could sell it for, you know, uh, $15. Some of the principals may make 15, 20 cents per person, 25 cents even, you know. That's it. So they don't make movies anymore. Have you noticed? 80, 90% of the movie stars never came back after COVID. A lot of them used to make one or two movies a year. We don't see it at all. You ever see another Johnny Depp movie? No. Brad Pitt made a movie about car racing that hit the theaters, but most of the movies you see in the theaters are nobodies. So what they do is they they use them to make a few movies, and then they get rid of them and look for a new upcoming. Because his first movie, what do they give him? $50,000, $100,000, right? His second movie maybe he gets $250,000, $500,000. His third movie he might get $2 million if it's popular, right? Then his fourth movie he's going to say he wants $5 or $10 million, and that's when he's finished. They won't give it to him. They'll start over with another newcomer. So you look at the movies and you see all these stars, you never heard of them. The big established ones, they're not there anymore. They'll take TV shows from the 50s and sell them to you. Okay? And who owns YouTube? Google. See what they do? They ruined the internet. They ruined the internet. That's right. It used to be a free place. It used to be good. It used to be fun. And many people try to control the email on the internet. Because if they could give you free email service, they could send you ads, But Gmail wound up controlling it, and I never see ads from them. Maybe because I live in Israel and they got no advertisers, but I never see anything. I think they did it just so they could read people's mail. I think the CIA owns it. Before then, they had other big, Yahoo was one that had tons of email, and there was another one that was very big, and it just faded away, but Gmail took it over. I remember when Google started, everybody was starting up with search engines, and people were copying Google software. And what they were doing was they were using Google on what then was high-speed internet, and getting searches. And when people would go to their search engine and search, their search engine was really searching Google and giving them the results. And people were doing that and getting away with it, and then Google had to start suing them. It's so bad. You go to a site, a news site, and there's so many ads on there, you can't even, you gotta stare at it to see where the news story is. They spam to death their own websites to try to make a buck on the internet. Google did all this. Google made it bad, made it very bad. Did they do anything good? Not that I could tell. They didn't do anything good. Is YouTube good? Yeah, YouTube is good, but it's getting corroded fast. It's very close to being not usable because there's so much. I look at these sites that are very, very popular that report on the news and all this stuff, right? And they're full of fake news. Now, they don't make up events that never happened. That's really junk. Serious idiocy. They take some little incident and they blow it up out of proportion. Like Pakistan said, well, we're in a state of war. Well, they'll say Pakistan going to war. Well, you see, that's what they do. And why do they do it? They want you to buy their survival food. They want you to buy their, survival supplies, their preppers, their prep supplies. That's what they do. And they just try to scare the people as much as they can scare them. All the time. So the people say, oh, we better make sure, let's buy more of this and more of that, So sad. Okay. So what's going on in the world? Trump did put in the proposal he did to the UN Security Council, which is dead as a doornail. It was dead as a doornail as soon as he wrote it. The phrase mentions Palestinian state may not mean full recognition of the full classic two-state solution formula. It's a reference within a longer draft about Gaza governance system. I think he just put it in there to shine them on. Russia, China, and some Arab states have expressed unease about a yet to be established board that would temporarily govern the territory and the lack of any transitional role for the Palestinian Authority. Now, the Palestinian Authority just got caught continuing their slave for pay program. So, Murder Incorporated. So what the heck? Then Trump's not going to go for that. So the veto's going to rip it apart. The United Nations is a highly ineffective piece of junk. And the best thing they could do is just dissolve it. But they won't, because they don't admit that they were wrong about anything, because they're Satan bots. That's how they are. We don't do anything wrong. That's how you could recognize them. They never admit wrong or failure. Did you ever hear of an American president apologizing he made a mistake? So Trump is going for a mandate until December 31st, 2027. The Russians and the Chinese will promote something like that but it'll be geared to suiting the Palestinians and punishing Israel. That's all. It's not going to be any good. And it won't. And then Trump will wind up vetoing it, if they push it. It's just stupid. And I don't understand how Trump could be dumb enough to do this after, 100% taxes on China, every possible sanction on Russia, Tomahawk missiles threat, and blah, 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 blah. And he thinks Russia's not going to veto it. What is he, delusional? Very likely. It's likely. I'm not kidding. He might be another Biden, and you don't know it yet. But why he would even try something like this is stupid. U.S. officials are concerned about a pending sale of F-35s to Saudi Arabia, thinking that the technology behind these F-35s could reach China. In other words, putting it in baby talk, they're afraid that to get some favors or something out of China, and I don't know what that could or would be, they could let China come and examine the F-35s, photograph it, and figure out how to copy it. So Trump's letter with Herzog, the president, asked him to pardon Netanyahu. Well, Yair Lapid, a political party leader, member of the Knesset, brought out that you can't pardon somebody under Israel law unless they were convicted of something, which Netanyahu was never convicted of anything. So they said they can't pardon, Herzog can't pardon Netanyahu. He's not been convicted. So what Netanyahu turned around and said was this. It shows you how scared he is. Netanyahu insists he won't ask for a pardon if he has to admit guilt in this absurd trial. See, if he admits guilt, then he's guilty, and then the pardon could work, probably before sentencing. But he'll never take that chance, because then if Herzog changes his mind, he's in jail for years. He'll never do it. Hezbollah up in Lebanon rejects political talks with Israel and vows to defend Lebanon despite the ceasefire. Defend Lebanon against us destroying their missiles because they have every intention of resuming the war against us. The excuse for continuing the war against us would probably be us disarming Hamas in Gaza, which is going to be against the will of them, so it'll be violence. Iran, our friends in Iran, old Persia there, has yet to show international inspectors access to nuclear sites bombed by Israel and U.S. in June, 12-day war, according to a new according to a new a confidential International Atomic Energy Agency report to the member states. So they didn't publish it, they just sent it, but it leaked out, So Iran's not cooperating, and that's no secret. The report says the agency's lack of access to the nuclear material in Iran for 5 months means that its verification is long overdue. It is critical that the agency is able to verify the inventories of previously declared nuclear material in Iran. So this is a war drum. This is going to stir up more sentiment to attack Iran. In the last month, Iran did announce that they were ending all cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. So they're defying Trump and everybody else because Trump is a do nothing. He's a threat, but he doesn't deliver. Trump told that young prince idiot in Saudi Arabia that he expects a Saudi-Israel deal. In other words, normalized relations with the war in Gaza are over. But the war in Gaza is not over. We're bombing sites and people every day, attacking every day. It's not over. I mean, you see, that's what I'm telling you. I think Trump is delusional. I'm serious. He's nuts. He doesn't know what he's doing. We could turn that around and say he's a very smart guy and he lies creatively, but I think he's stupid. He believes his own garbage. You know? He buys his own cock and bull stories back and starts to believe them. I think Iran does that too. These people are nuts. They're transactional. You understand? Some of you do. And that means they're living a psychotic life. Okay? They're living a nut job. They're goners, okay? Complete goners. And they're used to living in a reality that's not real that they impose upon themselves. And they've learned to do that. And they apply the same practices of reality denial to their political stuff. They're crackpots, in other words. That's all I'm telling you. They're nuts. And Netanyahu's that way, and he's mean and vindictive, and he'll punish Israel for what Israel's done to him.
And I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee where I live. Today's November 14th, I think it is. And it's about 8:26, I think.
The issue with Saudi Arabia that's troubling us is not just giving it to China, it's what's Saudi Arabia going to do with F-35s? Now, one of the reasons they want the F-35s in my book is to protect themselves against the Houthis in Iran, for sure. So if Iran and the Houthis bother them, they'll bomb Iran and Yemen. Now, I don't think Saudi Arabia would ever have the guts to bomb Iran, but maybe, I doubt it. But they would bomb Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen, with their F-35. See, with the world leaders, it's all about death and destruction. It's not about helping the people. They don't give a hoot about the people. The people could starve to death, freeze to death. In Ukraine, Russia knocked out some power facilities in some city or cities or something. And the Zelensky transactional moron told them that they should burn chicken poop for heat in the winter because the power's not coming on this winter. Ukraine's cold. Let's see how cold it can get. Let's check. I really don't know, but we can get an answer. How cold does it usually get in the winter in Ukraine? So it's going to give it to me in zones. Northern and northeastern. Oh my gosh. Average winter lows -5 centigrade to -10 centigrade. So actually that's bad, but not that bad. In Fahrenheit, 23 degrees above zero to 14 degrees above zero. Cold waves can drop it down to 5 degrees above zero to -13. Now, -13 is very, very serious. I remember once I went to Manhattan. I lived in California. I went to visit my parents. This is decades ago. They're long gone. And I took, they have a real train. I took a real train into Manhattan. And I was doing some shopping and I wanted to walk around in Manhattan. And it was very cold. It was about -5 in Manhattan or 0 or something like that. And I had to stop every block or two and go into a store and warm up to keep going. I mean, that was, and I was dressed with a down jacket that wasn't a really good down jacket. When I had it in California, I thought it was good because it wouldn't get that cold, but it was pretty worthless in the real cold. Eastern and central Ukraine is about the same. Western Ukraine is reasonably the same, and southern Ukraine is pretty much similar. They're not. So it's basically going to get below freezing a lot, and it could go to below zero occasionally. So if you're trying to live without heat and it's under 40 degrees, you're in a lot of trouble. If you don't have heat and it's 40 degrees, you don't need a refrigerator. You could just put stuff in your garage, assuming you're not going to run heat in your garage. Just have a table and you could put your food on the table in the garage. It would be the same thing as a refrigerator. Really. Food could sit there for weeks. It won't go bad unless you got bugs, but you don't get bugs in cold weather. I had a friend in Canada that used to do that. in the winter they'd put food outside. Like they'd have a big turkey, and then they would, instead of putting it in the fridge, what was left on the bird was big, so they put it out in the garage and took it in the next day, and it would, the garage would over there would be below freezing, so it would freeze. Then they'd have to thaw it again and stuff like that. I imagine you get freezer burn on the thing. You know, I know years ago we'd buy chicken in San Francisco when I was single, buy chicken and keep it in the fridge, and you'd forget about it, and it would be there for a few months, and then you'd go to eat it, and it wasn't any good. It had freezer burn more than any good. You could keep vegetables there. I used to buy the bird's eye vegetables that came with seasoning because they were so tasty. It had different kinds. They don't sell that in Israel, sadly. It's not good for you either, but they don't sell that. They just sell the boring vegetables that are frozen. And very few people in Israel don't go for the frozen food in the same way that Americans do. You don't really see TV dinners here. Not really. Where you see a meal where you got a hungry man, pot roast or something like that, chicken, and then you have a dessert, some kind of pie, and then you have some stuffing, and then you have a vegetable or something. They used to sell that stuff in Israel about 35 years ago, 35 years ago, and they got rid of it because they were able to make a greater profit margin on selling some Israeli crap. So they block out the good stuff so that people forget how bad the Israeli stuff tastes. Nice people. They used to have the Sara Lee cakes. Now, is that good and healthy for you? Oh, heck no. Does it taste good? Oh, yeah. They had the cheesecake. They had a carrot cake. They had about 4 or 5 different ones they'd bring in. They got rid of those. And they sell crap cakes to you now. I mean, artificial garbage junk. Most of the ice cream in Israel isn't ice cream. I mean, it doesn't melt. I mean, it softens and goes through a liquid, but it ain't ice cream. I don't know what it is. I don't buy it. The only ice cream you could buy in Israel that is ice cream is Ben and Jerry and Haagen-Dazs. And the problem is they load it, there are stores that have real, I'll explain, like you can get vanilla Haagen-Dazs, you could get chocolate, you could get maybe strawberry, maybe 3 real flavors. The rest of it is going to be Haagen-Dazs loaded with candy in it for the kids. Junk. Ben and Jerry, the only thing I ever see is vanilla ice cream without the candy in it. They have other things like cherry Garcia and double cherry, but they put pieces of chocolate in with it. I don't care. If I want to have ice cream, I would rather just have ice cream, not ice cream with candy. And they load it with candy. These flavors are, it's literally, you're getting half candy. It's garbage, and that's the best stuff. The junk you buy from Nestle's, which should be a criminal organization, in my opinion, with the food they sell you, is no, when it melts, it doesn't look like it's ice cream. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I wouldn't buy it. They have some ice cream cones they sell frozen. They call them Magnum, and I think they might be real ice cream. I don't really eat ice cream, but they're they're not bad. Most of the ice cream is pure garbage. The sherbet you can get isn't that bad. The best thing to do if you really want this stuff in the winter is to buy the molds with the wooden sticks or whatever they give you, and put real juice in the mold and freeze it, and then eat that. And you can buy real juice frozen, but I don't know what kind of preservatives and other stuff they put in with it, which I'm sure they do. Uh, But that's the same all over the world. Food that's not really free of chemicals. It's not a good idea, but that's what they do. Pretty bad, you know. So ice cream, it's just something I don't eat. Stay away from it, you know. Um, the charity food place had cookies there the other day, and they were shaped like this. They were very much like an American cookie, like that. I can't remember the name. It probably was an American cookie. I don't know, made by license overseas or something. I don't know what it was. And they didn't have any boxes, little boxes of them. They were in a big plastic bag, put in a cardboard box, and we got a 15 or 20 pound box of them for free. I don't know what we're going to do with them, but we're eating them. They're very good. They taste just like American cookies. I mean, you can only eat so many. Of all the crazy things in Israel, you can buy the fish eggs. The poor man caviar. They got the big red ones, reddish orange, and they got the little ones that are black. They're cheap. I don't know why. Um, and they're pretty cool. And then they got something called a kura, which is like a pasty spread with the fish eggs together, and that's really cool to put on bread or cookies or something. But I think my supply is run down. I got to order some more. It's very, very inexpensive in Israel, and I can't explain why it's so inexpensive. It shouldn't be, but it is inexpensive. Um, all right, so let's talk about Apostle John. Now, this is something that is, of course, the churches leave it alone. And we'll go through uh, some of the scriptures that I'm talking about, why it's important, okay? And we'll have to translate better some of these passages because they do a pathetic job in English. Okay. Matthew 16:28. Verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Now, the Son of Man coming in his kingdom is not the appearing in the clouds seated on the right hand of Father God Jehovah, because Psalm 110:1 says, the Lord said to my Lord, sit thou on my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. Well, when he appears in the clouds, that has not yet happened, of course. So that won't happen until the tribulation and Gog and Magog is over. Then he comes back. So, but the error here that maybe they just really made a mistake because the translations in English are terrible, but they also twist it on purpose. The church world does. You see, these Bibles are made by Christian publishing houses, and they're not going to issue a Bible and sell it that is going to tell the truth because it's going to contradict the church, and the church is going to say they're lying, this is an apostate Bible, don't buy it, don't bring it into our church, and all that stuff, okay? So what it really says is, would there be some, when you study the words, it's someone, it's an individual. See, they say it's some, like it's a plural, but it's just someone, an individual. So there's one standing there, which would be Apostle John the Beloved. Now we go to Mark 9:1. Verily I say unto you, that there be some of them that stand here, which shall not taste of death till they see the kingdom of God coming with power. Okay. So again, none of them that were there ever experienced this. But let's break the words down on this more carefully. Mark 9:1. I never did this one before, but we'll do it now. If you dig, usually you get the error. And he said unto them, verily I say unto you, that there be some of them that stand. Okay, they added words. The word for some is Greek 5100. And it means a certain, a one, or a someone. The same thing. It's an individual, but they make you think by not clarifying it that it's a group of people. And then they say, of them that stand, 4 words for 1 word in the Greek, which is Strong's number 2476. It means to stand. Let me get into Strong's. Strong's main emphasis here is the word means to stand. So let's read it a little more carefully now. And he said unto them, verily I say unto you, that there be some one, and the word of them that is, those 3 words are not in the text. So, okay, someone stand here, which shall not taste of death till they have seen the kingdom of God come with power. Okay? See how they twist? They put words in there that are not there. Like that idiot that wrote that, what's it called, the Living Bible, where he says he wrote it for his kids and he just ad-libbed. It's, Schofield Bible, basically, or Darby. Okay. It says it in another place, Luke 9:27. But I tell you of a truth, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the kingdom of God. Okay, that one's going to be a little easier to debunk. Luke 9:27. So we go to Luke 9:27. But I tell you of a truth. So Yeshua was making this pretty strong because he figured they may not believe him, or they would shine it on or something. There be some, it's the same word, an individual, someone, it should say, standing here. See, it didn't put in of them, it says standing or stand here, which shall not taste of death till they see the kingdom of God. Okay. Now, seeing the kingdom of God, it not exactly would be to me Yeshua appearing in the clouds. It's like seeing the reign of God. And when does God reign really? When does Yeshua reign really? When his enemies are made his footstool, and that's when he comes down to earth with New Jerusalem, and he's the king of Israel, high priest in the order of Melchizedek. That's how I interpret it. So, is Apostle John one of the two witnesses? Well, we need to look at that because he's not, but I'll break it down for you. It's not difficult. We go to Revelation 11. I've got to buy new charging stuff for this thing, or I got it somewhere. The cable is going. I got to get some Samsung chargers. They're cheap. I just got to remember to do it. Okay, Revelation 11:1. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God. That's the temple, the next temple that people don't believe is ever going to come here. And a lot of people say, well, the temple's not spoken about in the New Testament. Well, I'm in the New Testament, but they'll say, oh, it's the old one. Yeah, they'll always say something, right? And sometimes arguing with them is futile and a waste of time, but you could try. I certainly tried, but it's frequently you can help. There are people you can help, so it's worth trying. The altar and them that worship therein. But the court, which is without the temple, leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the Goyim, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months. So it doesn't exactly sound like the Romans, but it could be a fit. The Roman siege was starting in 63 AD, and it had two pieces. It had a 3.5 year piece, and then something changed, and it had another 3.5 year piece. Or they twisted the history books to make it seem that way. So what we should do is go back to Revelation 10 at the bottom and see what we're reading over there. It may give us some more insight. So let's go to verse 9, Revelation 10:9. And I went in unto the angel and said unto him, Give me the little book. And he said unto me, Take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. So, okay. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up, and it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter, upset stomach in a way, you would say. And he said unto me, Thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. So, this is Apostle John has to prophesy again. Has he done that? No. Is he not going to taste of death until he sees the kingdom of God coming, Yeshua with New Jerusalem? Yes. Did he go up to heaven? We're not told. No. We're told about Enoch. We're told about Elijah. We're not told about him. Are we told he died? No. Forget Fox's Book of Martyrs. You may as well read the Tibetan Book of the Dead. That's not a Bible book. Forget about it, you know. That's just, in my mind, these books that the church has published is like, reading that author named Shelley something that wrote the Frankenstein thing as if it's real. Or, Frankenstein, some guy put pieces of dead bodies together and then got a big antenna to get in a storm to get a high dose of electricity and put it on two metal pieces in his brain and gave him an electric shot and brought him to life. Yeah, that's the spirit of life, right? An electric shock. They made another movie where Count Dracula was with Frankenstein and they were coming to America. It was with Abbott and Costello. It was very cute. But at the same time as it was probably made in the 40s. I think it was pre-50. It might have been the early 50s. It was a very, very old movie. And it had scary scenes, you know. And it was a comedic movie with Bela Lugosi playing Dracula and somebody, Boris Karloff, maybe playing Frankenstein, the two big horror movie guys. In the 50s in America, and even going back to the 30s, but mostly in the 40s and 50s, the horror movies were really popular, along with the Westerns. People liked going there and getting scared. I don't know why, but they did. So they had the Frankenstein movies and they had the vampire Dracula, you know. And Bela Lugosi was obsessed with it. He had a bout of pill addiction for some reason and alcohol, and he got rehabbed. And when he died, he made arrangements for his body to be dressed as Count Dracula. In other words, the studio costume of Count Dracula, and that's how he got buried. What a schmuck, huh? I mean, boy, it was, so, he did, so Frankenstein, they come over to America in a boat, and Dracula has to have a coffin filled with soil, and he's sleeping in the boat. And they come to America, and the coffins get delivered to some museum. And Dracula wants to wake Frankenstein up, so he gets out of the coffin at night, goes because you can't appear if you're a vampire. When you appear in the sunlight, it burns you up, So he appears in the. He gets out, and there's a warehouse in the museum there or something. And Abbott and Costello work like as custodians in the museum, something like that. And Dracula gets out and opens Frankenstein's coffin, takes his ring, puts it on the electrode with an electric shock, and then Frankenstein rises up, and then people were buying into this stuff, It just goes to show you what Hollywood will do to just get the people as far as they can away from God. All these shows that they started when TV lit up, TV sets were around right after World War II, but they were costly and they were junk. The original ones had a screen about this big, and then they had a magnifying glass about this big, and they put it in front of it to magnify it. You could imagine the quality of the picture. And the sound was rather tinny. They had a paper speaker with the magnet in the back. And the reception wasn't that good. But by the time you got to around 48, 49, 50, they were selling TV sets without the magnifier. They had a round picture tube. They had 15, 17-inch screens, by the time you got to about 53, people were watching TV, not that many. A lot of the older people never wanted to bother with it. from other countries and stuff, and they never watched it. They weren't used to it. People were still listening to the radios. Um, and we all listened to the radio in the car. So they listened in the house. What a lot of people did is after they ate dinner together as a family, they would go to the family room or the living room, whatever they called it, or the den or the foyer, whatever, depending on that. And they would sit down together and they would listen to the radio. There was all kinds of radio shows. They had radio shows for kids. They had comedic radio shows. They had music radio shows of all sorts. They had drama radio shows. They had soap opera radio shows. They had anything you wanted, news shows. They had people narrating the basketball games, baseball games, football games, tennis, you know. Um, they had all of this stuff. Talk shows, They had different stations. You could get all sorts of stuff. It was AM. And people used to listen to shortwave then too. Get radio from other countries and stuff. Of course, you needed an antenna, but you didn't need much. You could take one of those plastic antenna wires that had a little bit of copper on either side, flat in the middle, and 25 feet of that. If you took it from your house where the radio was and you ran it up to the roof and you spread it around the roof or something, you had a pretty effective shortwave antenna, and you could pick up South America from the U.S. You could pick up, Canada, Europe. Getting it in English was a challenge, and a lot of people were using Morse code, and you'd pick up tons of Morse code. Beep, 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 beep. So they just polluted. Okay, so back to this. So Apostle John has to prophesy again to many nations, many people, and so forth. Did he travel amongst the nations? No, the one that did the traveling was Paul. He was the one that went to the Goyim. Then King James calls it the Gentile. The Goyim were the 10 tribes, the 10 lost tribes. They were without God for ages. Now, they knew where these 10 tribes. So this is why it's Apostle Paul, because he's prophesied by an angel to have to get back and do it again. And you see, he doesn't die. So where is the guy? Well, he's in Israel, but did he get everlasting life? I would assume so, or how would he? It's an assumption. How would he still be here? I mean, you're talking pushing 2,000 years. I don't believe was easy then. You think you got it bad waiting. How do you think he feels? 2,000 years. What? I mean, he saw the Crusades. He saw so much. The people coming back in the Balfour Declaration, 1917. He might have thought this is it. And here we are more than 100 years later, and it's still not really it. I don't know. I don't have knowledge as to how the Lord deals with him. I don't know. I'm rather certain we'll find out he's one of the sons of God. That's why Yeshua was calling him the beloved, and we're treating him differently. Yeshua knew he was his brother up in heaven from before the creation, but he never talked openly about it. John probably didn't know. At some point, God probably explained it to him. So I don't know for a fact that it says he had everlasting life, but I expect it to be the case. People just don't go 2,000 years. Could God just make them go 2,000 years without everlasting life? Well, I don't know. Some people will live in 900, from the flood days, so I don't know, but probably. Maybe not. This is like more than twice as much. So the 12 tribes are the Goyim, and they knew where they were, actually. I believe it's right here. James 1, verse 1. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Yeshua HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of the Lord that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering, for he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. All right, so they knew where they were. He was addressing them here. Now, this is roughly 2,000 years ago, so things are different today, okay? But he has work to do that he hasn't done yet. So the question came up, and others might have it, can the anointed prince that we read about in Ezekiel 45, performing sacrifices, offerings, and so forth in the next temple, can he be Apostle John? Well, no. And now you need me to prove that to you, and I will. Daniel 9:26. And after 62 weeks, now don't pay attention to the way they write the weeks. They got it all messed up on purpose. So you can't put it together. So I've unraveled that before. I'm not going to do that today. It says shall Mashiach, which is a word that means anointed. See, what most people don't know is the word Christ is English. Christos is the Christ. Okay, wait a second. Let me get this straight. I got to get what's Latin and what's Greek. Okay, Christo, it's really Christos, or would pronounce it Christos, but I guess I have a bad Latin accent. It's Christus. It means anointed one, and it comes, Christos is the Latin, and the Greek is pretty similar. It's Christos. So the Greek is Christos, the Latin is Christus, and the English is Christ. So when you see Christ, it's from Christos and Christus, because the Catholic Church was running with the Latin for many centuries. Okay, but it means anointed. That's what the meaning of Christus and Christos and Christ is anointed. Which the word in Hebrew is Mashiach, which they transliterate to Messiah. And people don't understand this, okay? Because the church doesn't teach it. All right? Do the church characters know it? Yeah, they probably do, but they don't teach you right. Okay. Um, and after 60 and whatever their time frame here says, it's obviously going to be wrong. Shall Mashiach, the anointed, be cut off, but not for himself? Now you stop right there and they say, oh, it's for the sins of the people, it's Yeshua. No, it's not. Let's keep reading. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war, destructions are determined, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week shall cause the sacrifice and the offering to cease. Okay, the sacrifice and the offering didn't cease in Israel till in the 60s AD. It's not anything like a good description of what happened in 70 AD. Okay, it's not what it's talking about. Okay, now I'm gonna go back and show it to you for sure, but um, to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even until the consumption that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. See, uh, the consumption, we gotta, let's see what that is. The meaning of the word. It's Strong's 3617. Let's just see what Strong has. I lost it. Stinking device. All right. No, I lost that word. Let me find it. now. If I could get this to not act up. There we go. Consumption means completion. They say utter destruction. Okay. So let's go back to definitively deal with this. Go to 9:24 in Daniel. Now, Daniel is a sealed book. I can open some of Daniel to you, but not all of it. I don't have it. 70 weeks. Complete lie in the passages. It says Shavim, Shavim in Hebrew in every translation. There's no Hebrew Bible that doesn't say that. It's 270s are on the people. Now, can we say that this second 70 is when Yeshua was born to the 70 AD destruction of Jerusalem? Well, we're using Pope Gregorian years, but let's set that aside and say, okay, you see, you go in there, when was Yeshua born? And you're going to hear answers -3 AD. How could he be born 3 years before the death? You see, they're such idiots, okay? And people take them seriously. They're not to be taken seriously. They're morons. Then you got, some people will say, well, he was, born +5, AD. So he was born 5 years after his death. I mean, they're just idiots. So he was born in 0. The BC AD stuff was CE, whatever they changed it to. He was born in 0, right at the beginning of after the birth of Christ. Okay. So he was born in the beginning, 0. Take him up to 70 AD, right? And where does that take you? 70 years. I think that was the first 70, because the people were given 70 years to get their act together and repent from the time of Yeshua. Now, why wouldn't it start when Yeshua started his ministry? Because when he was born, Herod was killing the male children in wholesale quantities, hunting them down. The Magi knew he was the Messiah as an infant. They came to worship him, gave him frankincense, gold, and all that stuff, right? He was in the manger, right? Because he was the Lamb of God. Get it? Manger, Lamb of God, a barn, Lamb of God, animal, barn, manger. Yeah, you got it yet? Okay. So the show started when he was born. Okay. Remember the scripture where his parents left Jerusalem after one of the go-up holidays, and he stayed behind, and they thought he was coming with the procession leaving, and then they realized he wasn't there, and they had to go back and find him, and he said, I've got to be about my father's business. And he was wrestling the scriptures with the rabbis, and they were amazed at his grip of the scriptures as a youth. So stuff was going on, okay? So that, I would say, is it. Now, could we say that the first 70 was the Babylon captivity, and the second 70 was the 70 AD destruction? Well, that's an interesting concept. But the 70 years in Babylon was not exactly, they weren't given that to repent. Let me explain. they were told they got to get out of Jerusalem. He was going to destroy it. And those of you that trust me and have faith in me and so forth will go to Babylon, and you'll be well taken care of in Babylon. Don't worry about it. Don't hesitate. You'll have children. Don't be afraid to raise children. You'll be fine in Babylon. Okay? And they were. And they went because they knew that God could take care of them. So only those with faith would go. The rest of them stayed, and they ultimately got cut off and dead, right? So the ones that got cut off and dead didn't go for 70 years to Babylon. It took a couple of years after the people went to Babylon and they got cut off. 2-3 years or something like that. So I don't think that really makes the test. Okay? That's one. Now let's get some more things out of the way. So that we know there's 270s are determined upon thy people and upon thy city, that's the Israelites, and Jerusalem, the holy city, to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins and to make reconciliation for lawlessness and to bring in everlasting righteousness. Okay, let's check those words. Let's be careful. Olam, that's the everlasting word. And where did it go? Okay. And righteousness, let's check that. Tzedek, yeah. All right, and that's the everlasting life. That's the appearing. That's when that happens. And to seal up vision and prophecy. Okay, the word for seal up is Strong's number 2856. And, whoa, come on, this device is such difficulty. Okay. Seal up, let's try that again. All right, what does Strong say about this in English? To close up, seal, make an end. That's what I would say it means. Make an end. Seal up. You finished with the prophecy. Okay, so make an end of the prophecy and to anoint the most holy. Well, they tell you that the anointing the most holy is Yeshua, right? By definition, he was anointed. Remember, his father was the Holy Spirit. In the womb, he would have been anointed. Okay, now let's look at the words for anoint. Let's take a look at that. Oh, how about that? It says Mashiach. Oh, and anoint, and let's check the words for most holy, okay? Kadosh. That's holy. Kadosh Kadashim is the holiest of holies. Kadosh. Okay. So it's, let's check the next word. Yeah, it's Kadosh, Kadosh, and they say most holy. Holiest of holies. See, they don't want you to get this. Let me break it down for you again. It's the same word 2 times. Now, I want to go look at this in the Hebrew because I have a feeling it says Kadosh Kadashim. Hang on. This doesn't take a long time. See, they're just stinking liars, these people that write the English translations. Okay. I got to go to verse 24, 25, 24. I was right. Kadosh Kadashim. Kadosh is the singular, Kadashim is the plural. We would in English normally call it holy. So what it's saying in the Hebrew text is holy holies. Is that Yeshua, or is that the holiest of holies in the next temple that's not yet here? Obviously it is. And you know, I think all of us here at one time or another in our lives went to the churches. I certainly did. I came out from among them, but I did go there. A few years. Okay, so you could see how deceptive the English translations are. Okay, they're bad. So anoint Mashiach Kadosh Kadashim. Anoint the holiest of holies. See, if they told you the truth, you would know that it was really talking about what it's talking about, the next temple. They don't want you to know about a next temple because they're teaching you the law is dead. Although Yeshua in Matthew 5 said, don't think I came to destroy the law of the prophets, I came to fulfill. The next verse they don't read. For as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. The man that disregards the least of these commandments and teaches people so shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. The one that does them all and teaches the people who do them all shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So the guy that disregards one of them is going to get into heaven. What about the churches that disregard hundreds of them? Oh, you know. Okay. I wouldn't look for him, if the guy's name was, Irving, he was the church guy, and I was up in heaven, I'd go maybe, hey, Irving, are you here? I wouldn't run around all day calling Irving, using a poor allegory to make the point, Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment, now we need to check that word. The bar, that's not commandment, it's speaking forth. Words, medaber, to speak, it means like a speak thing. It's not a commandment, it's not a mitzvah. To restore and to build Jerusalem unto the anointed, the prince shall be, and then they start with the 7 weeks and stuff. Okay. And 62 weeks, the street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. And somebody's going to say, oh, that's, in Zechariah when he was building Zerubbabel and all that. Okay, look, it's not Zerubbabel. When Yeshua was walking around on earth, did anybody ever issue a commandment to build the street to the anointed, calling him the prince? The prince is not the king. He's the king of Israel. He's the high priest in the order of Melchizedek, okay? The prince is the anointed prince in Ezekiel 45, which I'll cover with you. Okay. So it says, and after 62 weeks shall the anointed Mashiach, let's check the word again. Yep, Mashiach, be cut off. And the word for cut off is 3772. Let's see how Strong's deals with it. How he puts it in English. cut down, cut asunder, destroy, consume, specifically to covenant, that is make an alliance or bargain originally by cutting flesh. Wait a minute. That's the covenant. No, I think it means dead, because it says not for himself. Let's check. Iron. Sword for eye, I think. Let's check what's going on here. Oh, ain. I'm sorry, I'm reading it wrong. Ain. No. It means absent, missing, not. Okay. Yeah, it's ain. I was reading it wrong. Okay. Ain, himself and the people. Now here's where I don't like what they did. So it says for himself and the people. We got 5 words for one Hebrew word. Now that's suspicious. Let's read the Hebrew word. 6971. People. Is people. It means people. That's really what it means. So, people's a plural, right? Not person, people. So it says he's the anointed, cut off, I assume dead. Iron, nothing people, not, you could say not to people. But wait, what's for himself and people? Prince, okay, 50-57. Nagi, that's a leader, prince, so forth, Like you might want to call the leader of the Republican Party in America a Nagi. You could say prince, which doesn't have to mandate a birthright into the royal family line, okay? It doesn't have to do that. So it says, not for himself and the people, prince, it should say bow. Yep, come, shall destroy the city. Let's check. 78:43. It could mean destroy and it could mean corrupt, defile. Let's go to Strong's and see. Decay. It could mean destroy, but it doesn't have to mean destroy. It could mean corrupt the sanctuary. See, they post this thing that they call the abomination and desolation. All right. So we'll get to that one. I can cover that, I suppose. Destroy the city and the sanctuary. See, defile or corrupt the sanctuary. And the end thereof shall be with a flood. Let's check that word. 78:58. Could be a deluge or overflowing, And unto the end of the war, let's check all these words, these liars. That could mean battle, end of the battle. Or desolations are determined. That's the desolation of the temple, because the glory of God leaves the temple. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And that's not Yeshua. When did Yeshua ever do a covenant for 1 week, That's the bad one, the prince, not the anointed prince, the bad prince, the beast. And the midst of the week, and he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. Well, they did this with maybe it was the glory of God. It's so written so poorly, it's hard to really make a lot of sense out of this. Cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consumption, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. All right, so it's not hard to understand what this is talking about unless you go to the church, because they're going to have you totally confused. If you go to Ezekiel chapters 8, it talks about this event, okay, through 11. Now, I'm not going to go through all the verses because we'll be here all day, but I'll go through some of it. We'll go to verse 2. Then I beheld, and lo, a likeness as the appearance of fire, from the appearance of the loins even downward, fire, and from his loins even upward, as the appearance of brightness, as the color of amber. And he put forth the form of a hand, and took me by a lock of my head, and the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heaven, and brought me in the visions of God to Jerusalem, to the door of the inner gate that looketh towards the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provoketh to jealousy. The Hare Krishnas adapted this, and that's why they grow a lock of hair so God could pick them up and take them to heaven. Very nice, huh? Idiots. They don't know any better. And behold, the glory, it's probably a lot easier when the show starts getting more and more ugly to preach to the ones that are in things like Hare Krishna when they realize that their stuff doesn't work, than the church people, because the church people, to accept the faith have to come out of the false gospel and the December 25th Jesus, and that means admit they were wrong. And they generally don't like to do that. Pride comes before a fall. They're going to fall. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel, that would be Michael, was there according to vision that I saw in the plain. He saw this when he was in the captivity in Babylon. He was in Hezekiah, Ezekiel was in the captivity. And in verse 6, we read, and he saith furthermore unto me, Son of man, seest thou what they do, even the great abominations that the house of Israel committeth here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary temple? The word is 4720, Mikdash, temple, Mishkan is tabernacle. But turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations And he brought me to the door of the court. When I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. And he said unto me, Son of man, dig now in the wall. And when I digged in the wall, behold, a door. And he said unto me, Go in, and behold the wickedness, the wicked abominations that they do in here. So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beasts, and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. We're talking about the temple, putting the idols on the temple. And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel. These are the 70 counselors. Quite sad. Stood Jezaniah the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up. The only place you read about this Jezaniah is here. We don't know much of him. Then said he unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark? Every man in the chamber of his imagery, for they say, The Lord seeth us not, the Lord hath forsaken the earth. And he said also unto me, Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see a greater abominations. And then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, that's the temple, which was, it's calling it a house here because the glory of God of Israel lives in it. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Tammuz is the sun god. Guess what the sun god's birthday is? December 25th. Who does that remind you of? The other Jesus of the church, perhaps? Oh, and who's Tammuz's mother? Esther. You know, Easter ham. Oh, singing Christmas trees in the church. Tammuz, the sun god. Oh. Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these. And he brought me into the inner court. Now, the inner court is where the entrance into the temple building is, with steps, and also the altar is in there, the brazen altar. And he brought me into the inner court of Jehovah's Beit, Jehovah's house, the Lord's house, Jehovah's house. And behold, now the glory God of Israel has God put his name Jehovah in him. So that's why he can be called Jehovah. He works in God's stead down here on earth. Okay. It's in Exodus, I think, 20, verse 23, or Exodus 23, verse 20. It explains that God put his name, which is Jehovah, into this angel, which is Michael, most powerful angel, the big angel, number one angel. Okay. Inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of Jehovah, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs towards the temple of Jehovah, and their faces towards the east, and they worshiped the sun towards the east. So they turned their back to the entrance of the temple. They were facing east, which is the side of the temple that you enter into is east. You go through the eastern gate, which is the gate for the courtyard and stuff. Okay, then he said unto me, so they're worshiping Tammuz, the sun god. Gee, it sounds just like Sunday morning at 11 a.m. in America. Then, because literally it is, but, then he said, but they don't know it, Then he said unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Is it a light thing? Now, Tammuz isn't real, by the way. They just say he was born on December 25th, and his mother is Easter, Esther, It's not real. It's mythology. It's made up. Unless it's some demon they're promoting, but it would still be made up. Then he said unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Is it a light thing to the house of Judah that they commit the abominations which they commit here? For they have filled the land with violence, and have returned to provoke me to anger, and okay, so they were trying to get the glory of God of Israel to leave the temple. Why? When he leaves the temple, you see, they were doing this for decades. They were doing the sacrifices. This is your Gog and Magog days, tribulation days, you might say, right? So they were doing the offerings and sacrifices in this next temple with the glory of God inside. Now, when he left, they see him leave. They don't do the sacrifices anymore. The book of Joel describes this rather well. And so then what do we see in verse 2? And behold, 6 men came. Well, let's go to Ezekiel 9, verse 1. He cried also in my ears with a loud voice, saying, Cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, and every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lieth towards the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand, and one man among them as clothed with linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side. And they went in and stood beside the brazen altar. So they were standing in the inner courtyard. The word for brazen is 5178. I'm sorry, it's bronze. I call it brass, it's bronze. There's a difference. It's not a huge difference, but there's a difference. Sorry about that. I got to get myself on track with that. Bronze. And the glory of the God of Israel was gone up from the cherubim. So forgive me for that. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father. I'll try harder to get that straight. Oh, wait a minute. Let's check Strong to make sure I... It also can mean copper, but it wouldn't be copper. Oh, it does say, Strong's uses the word brass too. So maybe I wasn't wrong. It also says steel, brass, bronze. I guess it's one of the two. We'll get clarifying on it when we need to. All right. And the glory of the God of Israel was gone up. See, they don't even know who the glory of God of Israel is in the churches. They don't teach them it because Satan hates the glory of God of Israel. And the glory of the God of Israel was, why? Because Michael's the angel that threw his tail out of heaven. The God of Israel was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was to the threshold of the house, and he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. Now pay close attention. And the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, that's Jerusalem, through the midst of Jerusalem. Well, I could have just read that, I guess, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst therein. So they put a mark. Now the mark is probably Jehovah's name. Now we're talking Old English word here. Let's try to get the Hebrew word here. So it's 8420. The implication is the signature. You watch the old movies like Davy Crockett or something like that. They're selling the houses and put your mark here. Put your signature there. See, it's Jehovah's name. His signature is his name. Perhaps you remember reading about the name being placed on the forehead in the book of Revelation. Well, here you're reading about it also. Upon the foreheads of the men that are bummed out about these abominations, okay? And to the others he said in my hearing, go you after them through the city and smite. Let not your eye spare, neither have you pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. So let's cover the abominations a little bit better. Go back to the previous chapter, which is Ezekiel 8. We'll go to Ezekiel 8, verse 5. Then said, it's the previous verse back there again. Then said he unto the Son of Man, lift up thy eyes now the way towards the north. So I lifted up my eyes the way towards the north, and behold, northward at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry. So the abomination of desolation is this. It's an entry between the outer courtyard and the inner courtyard. That's where they set it up. Didn't go inside the temple or anything like that. Okay? That's where it was set up. And that was what caused the glory of God of Israel to leave the temple, because of what's going to happen. But he goes and stands on the Mount of Olives, which is about a third of a mile away. But whether or not the people could see him, we don't know. Okay? That's your abomination of desolation. It's called an image, which is 5566. Smell. It's an image, statue, idol. It has an implication of being a likeness, so it was probably something like the beast, an image, a picture of the beast or something like that. That's what I would think. Um, and when the angels with the slaughter weapon come, they come over that northern wall, the northern gate. All right. So we move forward on this, and we see in Ezekiel 10, then I looked, and behold, in the firmament that was above the head of the cherubims, there appeared over them, as it were, a sapphire stone, as the appearance of the likeness. And he spake unto me, clothed with linen, and said, go in between the wheels, even under the cherub, and my hand with the coals. And then they throw the coals on the city, and I don't believe the city was burned up, but the coals could have been some cleansing or something. I don't know. And then in verse 4 it says, and the glory of the Lord went up from the cherub and stood over the threshold of the house, and the house was filled with the cloud, and the court was full of the brightness of the Lord's glory. And the sound of the cherub's wings were heard. Okay, and then they have what they call the Epiphany, which is the, you know, the the beast, as they call it, that are by the throne, that carries the throne around, you would say. All right, we're going to go to 11. In verse 1, moreover, the Spirit lifted me up and brought me into the east gate of the Lord's house, which looketh eastward, and behold, at the door of the gate 25 men, among whom I saw Jezaniah the son of Azur, and the only thing we know about him is from here. And there's another guy they talk about that we don't know from either. And we're in, I think, verse 23 of 11, Ezekiel 11. And the glory of the Lord went from the midst of the city and stood upon the mountain, which is on the east side of the city. That's the Mount of Olives. That's where he goes. Now, I'll show you some more stuff. We go to remember the glory of God of Israel, not Yeshua, went to the Mount of Olives. Okay. Zechariah 14:1. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh. The day of the Lord is not the day, that day in Zechariah 12. This is your Ezekiel 38:39, Gog and Magog. Cometh, and thy spoils shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations, all heathen nations, against Jerusalem to battle. And the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, looted, and the women ravished, raped, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Why are they not cut off? Because they got the mark in their forehead, Jehovah's name, and no bad thing would happen to them, so they didn't have to leave. Why? Where do we learn in the scripture about half of them going into captivity? A time, a times, and a half. You had what? You had the Egypt captivity, 1, Babylon captivity, 2, the Rome captivity in 70 AD, they took 200,000 to Rome. And the half a time here, when half of them went into captivity. It's not what the church teaches with 3.5 years and crap like that, okay? And this is not Zechariah 12. They never take the city, they just surround us in the siege, they don't invade us. The women aren't getting raped and all that stuff, and they don't take the city. Okay, Zechariah 14:3. Then shall Jehovah go forth and fight against those nations. Now, Jehovah's waiting, that's the glory of God of Israel. Remember, he has Jehovah's name in him, so he could be referred to as Jehovah, but this confuses the people that aren't the elect. They don't get it. These prophecies are not for them, they're for the elect. Okay, so he waits to count, and then when half of them go into captivity, boom, he goes to work. He fights against those heathen nations is when he fought in the day of battle. When did Yeshua ever fight in the day of battle yet? Never. It's not Yeshua. Wake up. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives. We just read that in 11, in Ezekiel 11, the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem. It's on the east. It's a perfect match. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof towards the east and towards the west, and there shall be a very great valley, and half of the mount shall be removed towards the north, and half of it towards the south. And you shall flee to the valley of the mountain, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal. Yes, you shall flee like as you fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah, and Jehovah Elohim shall come, and all the saints with thee. And it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day which shall be known to Jehovah. Not day nor night, but shall come to pass that at evening comes shall be light. And it shall be in that day that living waters shall go forth from Jerusalem, half of them towards the former sea, and half of them towards the hinder sea, in summer and in winter. And Jehovah shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord, and his name one. All the land shall be turned as a plain from Geba to Ramon, south of Jerusalem, and shall be lifted up and shall be inhabited in a place, and goes on. And the corner gate and says, and Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and transparent, and so shall be the plague of the horse, of the mule, and of the camel, and the ass, and of all the beasts that shall be in these tents as this plague. And it has all come to pass that every one that is left of all the heathen nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the king. See, this is talking, it looks like it's talking about the Zechariah 12. But the people aren't back yet, and it said here from Judah. So let me take another peek at this here. It could be run on with something else. It says, their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongues shall consume away in their mouth, and they shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from the Lord shall be among them. And they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. See, we don't see this in Zechariah 12. And what about when it's consumed? Does that burn up? Let's check the word. Consume away, 47:43. Not really. Let's see. Maybe it could be melt or flow, vanish, consume. It could be burned up, dissolve away. It could be fire. It doesn't seem to. It could be. See, it just talks about Judah and Jerusalem. So how did we get to a transition here? See, that would. I have to study this further. It could be we get the temple and the glory of God of Israel before Zechariah 12. But this is the day of the Lord. That's not it. And our spoil divided in the midst of us, that's not us. That's not Zechariah 12. I don't think this is Zechariah 12. No. It says all nations against Jerusalem. That's not exactly what happens. It's the surrounding nations, the nations round about. It doesn't match. It has some similarities, but it doesn't match. I think we had it right. Let's go to the book of Joel, chapter 2, and I'll show you something, and then we'll be moving on. Okay, so in verse 11, let's see. All right, let me get the right verses. Give me a second here. Joel 2, verse 10. The earth shall quake before them, the heavens shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the sun shall with and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Now I'm going to read you Joel 2, verse 31. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. The sun going dark and the moon turning to blood is the beginning of the 70 years, the second 70 years from Daniel 9:24. And that happens, I believe, just before Yeshua returns, well, before he appears in the clouds. It could be at that time or a little before. That's the beginning of your 70 years, and the end of it is Ezekiel 38:39, Zechariah 14, Ezekiel 8-11, and the book of Joel speaks of it also. Joel 2:10. The earth shall quake before them. Remember when Yeshua comes in Revelation, there's a great earthquake, and part of the city falls, and many give glory to God. Okay. That's the restitution of all things. Those people needed to be restored. Now, Yeshua could come. The earth shall quake before them, the heavens shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark. So now we're not getting the moon turning to blood, it's dark. And now we're also getting the stars shall fall without their shining. It also says like figs to the earth. So that's the return of Yeshua. So when we see the appearing and we get the 70 years, we get the everlasting life that starts it and it finishes in 70 years. And there's a great falling away. But you can't have a great falling away now where the people have not gotten in. How could they be falling away? They're not there yet. So I didn't plan on doing this Bible study, but I did it. And because I got led by the Lord to do it, so I hope you did enjoy it, at least somewhat. Let me take a look at the live stream, try to see if we got questions. Looks like we got a lot of nasty people posting today. No, I'm not seeing anything here. So where are we at now? Well, as I see it, we're waiting for the siege to begin. Now, you got to understand the temple and the tabernacle could come before the siege and it could come after. It doesn't tell us. Okay. I think it comes before. Okay. Because the progression from Malachi 3 to Malachi 4, I think it comes before the appearing. Okay. That doesn't mean the glory of God of Israel is in the temple yet either. He may not come until after Yeshua appears, which is when I think he'll come in. I think when Elijah teaches the Levites to make the offerings acceptable to the Lord in Malachi 3, it brings on the blessings of the law in Israel. That means Yeshua appears, because remember, this time we get a double portion. We get everlasting life. Then, as a reward, as it's referred to, a reward again, the glory of God of Israel comes into the temple. And who's going to make war with him? Nobody. They can't. All of Satan's people together couldn't give him an ingrown toenail. They couldn't do anything to him. So they got to get him to leave the temple. That's what they do by putting the abomination up. It's an insult. So he leaves. You get it? Okay. Now, you got to remember that there's no time or place that we see the beast there. And in Revelation 13, it explains it. And I did this yesterday, but since probably new people here, we'll do it again. And remember, I'm just reading the scriptures to you. I'm not making up my own doctrine. I'm reading you the scriptures. Revelation 13:1. And, why did I get into 14? That's pretty stupid. Okay, I must have done that. I can't really blame the device for that. I'll just back it up the hard way. Okay, verse 1, 13:1 of Revelation. Boy, it's chilly today. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, that's the beast, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. That's the beast that's in Revelation 17 that the whore is riding on, but he doesn't have the whore here. So when he came up, the daughter of Babylon is already burned and her flesh was eaten. America's gone. He comes up. Okay. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. It's an allegory describing his traits. And his feet were as that of a bear, and his mouth as that of a lion. And the dragon, which is Satan, gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So Satan gives the beast his seat. Now, it's very easy to understand that this is not in Jerusalem, although the church really loves the thought of that. So they teach the people that in the churches, and they hope that the churches believe it and it causes to come about that way. What a bunch of idiots they are. Revelation 2:12, and to the angel of the church in Pergamos. Pergamos is in North Cyprus. It's by the sea, so it's by the beach with the sand. There never was a Pergamos in Israel, never will be. Now, the new translations confuse this and say Pergamum. It's really Pergamos, not Pergamum. Pergamum also happens to be in Turkey, and there never was a Pergamum in Israel, nor will be. So it's not Israel. To the church of Pergamum, write these things, saith he which hath the sharp sword with two edges. That's Yeshua, Revelation 19. Double-edged sword, two edges. I know thy works and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. So your own Bible tells you that Satan's seat, which he gives to the beast to sit on, is in Pergamos, not Jerusalem. So it's not in the temple. They hate Israel, these churches. They don't tell you that, but by their doctrines, they hate Israel. Okay, Satan's seed is, and thou holdest fast, that's because of Satan. That's why they do it. And thou holdest fast my name, and hast not denied my faith, even in those days wherein Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you, where Satan dwelleth. So Satan dwelleth in Pergamos. So when this was written many years ago, almost 2,000 years ago, Satan was cast out of heaven. He was already in Pergamos. And the church is still teaching you he has yet to be cast out of heaven, huh? What a bunch of dinglings. Well, that knocked me out. So I'll pray for all of us, and you guys can agree with it. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers in their households, that you would pour your Spirit out on us, and we would walk in the gifts of the Spirit, and signs and wonders would follow our preaching of the Word. We would have adequate funding, have an excess of money. We would have good health and happiness. Your healing and recuperative power would flow through us, and we would keep getting healed. We would have strength, stamina, and endurance to meet the challenges. We would be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole, as would our animals and pets. And I pray that the scriptures, I get a better handle on the scriptures. And I pray, my Heavenly Father, and I ask you to too, that the Lord finds me another source of funds other than offerings. Okay? This ain't working. So ask the Lord to find me another source of funds. Okay? Other than you people giving. You know, I'm not saying don't give, I'm saying not enough do. So we need to do something. It's hard here now. It's real hard. I got to sweat paying bills, and it's really rough. And we don't live rich. We're not fat on the hog or anything like that. All right, and I pray for more insights into the scriptures for all of us, and I pray for the peace of Yerushalayim, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Let me explain. We got this place, we got the guest house, we moved in, the guest house was paying the rent and the bills, either almost all of it or all of it, it depended, and then came COVID, and that was it. Nobody's coming. And then comes the wars. Nobody's coming. So we had very little action since COVID with the guest house, except for family and friends. So I was hoping that we would, bring the guest house up to standards, which cost, we figure, about $1,000. And the tourism would come about because the wars stopped. But now I realize the wars have anything but stopped. There was a brief intermission. Hezbollah is going to be demilitarized by Israel, which is forceful attacks with ground invasion. The government of Israel, of Lebanon, may take their side and fight against us, and that would be biblical. Lebanon, open open your doors, let the cedars of Lebanon burn. They're going to get it again. And Hamas is not demilitarizing. Trump knows you can't make Trump casino and resorts and rebuild Gaza with them there with weapons, because they'll just shake everybody down. Oh, you're here to build the streets or to put this building up. You give us 25% and we'll kill you. That's Hamas. And they're only going to let Muslim workers in if they can help it, you know. All right, and then when that happens, the Houthis are going to join in and start shooting missiles and drones at us every day and attacking ships in the Red Sea. And then Iraq and Iran may do something. Syria's not happy with us. He said that the Syria guy said, no, we're not doing any Abrahamic Accords till Israel gets out of the Golan Heights Syria side and takes the troops out of Syria near the border with Israel. Okay, so that's going to blow up. Egypt has troops on our border. Turkey wants to demolish Israel. Jordan's got a lot of people in there that want to attack Israel, 9 to 11 million people that are interested in attacking Israel. Saudi Arabia will do a little bit against Israel. And, you know, Iraq has been rearming courtesy of Iran. And there you have it. War's going to come back any day now. So the tourism's not going to build up. It's going to go dead again. So there's no real future in that, because there's not tourism. Kaput. It ain't going nowhere. Now, is there some miraculous way that we could settle these wars and there would be a resurgence of tourism? Anything's possible, but I seriously doubt it. It doesn't lend itself to prophecy. I don't believe so. When Yeshua appears, that's when the Lord will say, Israel, your wars have ended. Okay. That's redemption. But we're still going to, maybe it's after that, because we're still going to fight. So we're going to be getting our land back, which will be fighting, but we're very victorious. We'll fight with sling stones. We're not going to be like, we're going to be more like Samson than we are what we are today. Okay. All of us more like Samson. So anyway, so I'm thinking maybe there's a way I could wind up with, you know, getting funds not from preaching. I've been doing this since 2013, so that's 20, almost 13 years. I think in January or February it'll be 13 years. And it used to be there were times when earlier, many years ago, the offerings were much easier to come about. We were able to get offerings through MoneyGram, which is in Walmart, and they don't send money. A few years ago, somebody sent some money to MoneyGram, and it never even came here. The supermarket, the Walmart said, yeah, okay. And they never even sent it here. They don't send money to Israel. They're afraid of money laundering or something. So the only thing MoneyGram is good for here is sending money home to Russia or Belarus or wherever you're from, Ukraine, or, you know, putting money into Israel. They don't send it. And then that brings us to Western Union. And Western Union is a nightmare. You got to go to the post office. They're the Western Union agent in the whole country of Israel. You can only really pick up one a day, so sometimes people send $10 or $15, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, except I've got to go drag myself to the post office, find a place to park, drive, wait online, and this and that. It's very hard to go to the post office for me and my wife. It's really hard, and it's very difficult. Post office have certain hours and lines, and you stand there, and I can't really do it anymore. Uh, and it's very ineffective method, and so I do what I can do with the offerings, but it's not that the means of giving the money is the problem. It's the economy's bad all over the world, and I've always been plagued with what 80% of the people that follow me regularly never give an offering, or 90% or whatever. It's very, very high, whatever it is. Um, and that's it. That's the nature of the people I preach to, I guess, you know. So instead of, I mean, to pray for the offerings to increase, I don't mind that, but I think we need to pray that there be another source of money coming in other than offerings for me, whatever that is. God can do anything. So I ask that and pray for that. And I pray for all this, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with it. And I send my, since it's Friday, my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out. And you see, I think it was a good study today. I hope you do. I tried. I put a lot of things together. I've done things like this before, but it's always good to keep tying it in with different pieces and to kick against your own doctrine. It's very important to kick against your own doctrines to make sure you're okay. That's how I got to understanding real end times doctrine many years ago. It was in the early 90s, I believe. I was about 1990, 91, something like that. I would take doctrines and see if I could find scriptures to contradict them and destroy the doctrine, which I could do with all the church doctrines, which is pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, and amillennial. And then I started formulating doctrines and started kicking against those to see until I arrived at a doctrine I couldn't take apart using scriptures, and that's how I got there. It took a long time, but that's how I got there. And it's very hard. Then I was using English Bibles, and it's very, very hard. Using the Hebrew and interpreting it is much easier. By the way, you could cut and paste something out of the Hebrew Bible and put it into an artificial intelligence and say, give me your understanding, put it into English as you see it best. And you might get a different perspective than what you get from Strong's. You can't trust artificial intelligence very much. You got it with the Bible, be very slow, But if you want to put it in and say, is it true that Pakistan's attacking Afghanistan? I'm not saying this happened. I'm just saying it would go through the news in seconds. It's check 25 or 40 or whatever sites and come back and tell you I can find no confirmed reliable source that such an attack did happen. Or it'll come back and say, yes, let me explain what happened. Because it goes and checks a number of reliable sources, newspapers and news reportage. And it comes back and tells you if it's real or not. See, it's good for that. If I put in and said, where could I have Chinese food delivered to the house? I live here. Find me some place. It probably would. But I can't afford to do that. It's too expensive, So, I don't know. I don't think the Lord wants me to go on the charity with the disability. I could be wrong about that. But it's to the point where we're seriously thinking about going on welfare, and we're already getting fruit and vegetables for free. Now the for free place, as I told you yesterday, started giving out canned goods, which I never, 2 days ago, I never saw that before. And they used to do it once a week. Now they're doing it multiple times a week. People are screwed up financially here. You know, Netanyahu is a real piece of garbage from the ground up. I'm not kidding you. And he's keeping our economy bad. I never hear this piece of garbage ever talk about doing anything for the economy. Never, ever. He's such an evil individual. Okay? He's so evil. And the people get sucked in by him because of the corruption. They, oh, let's get in bed with Netanyahu's political party and we don't have to go to college or do anything. We'll just get the jobs from corruption. They call it protexia. See, that's how the people in Israel are. They're all messed up. They're very messed up. Satan did it on purpose to keep Israel messed up. So Elijah really has his work cut out for him. It's terrible. They like the corruption and they put up with this piece of garbage. And, you know, he did October 7th. Biden never wanted Netanyahu to visit him. Biden hated him. Then in September 2023, Biden pops up and says, Netanyahu could visit me anytime he wants. A few days later, the 23rd of September, this piece of garbage flies over there and visits Biden. Comes back, and what happens? October 7th was allowed to happen. All our guards were down. It's a joke. Netanyahu has the military investigated. Well, the military, the bosses of the military was in on it. You know, how many people are aware of this in Israel? I would say 1 to 2 million. Anybody who was ever in the military or has familiarization with what was going on at Gaza all these years knows it was a put-on job. He let it happen. He was angry at the people for prosecuting him for corruption. I don't know if this is true. The people in Israel say his children bring money to some Central American country and they put, I don't even want to say where, they put the money in the bank for him as some, you know, anonymous accounts or done in corporations or something like that. I don't know if it's true. But there never was an independent investigation of this, and there will be when they get rid of Netanyahu. And they may never do it. God may just get rid of him, and that's the end of it, and we have to wait till that happens. But what do you think Netanyahu is going to do when Elijah starts training the Levites? You think he's going to tell Elijah what to do? You think Elijah's going to take direction from this transactional piece of garbage? You think Elijah will respect him as the prime minister of Israel when he's such a piece of trash acting against his own country? Of course not. Unless God tells him to. We've had we could be, because he's a rotten king, basically. We've had rotten kings, but I don't see anything. A few days ago, they were going to get rid of him. I don't see it. So he's going to keep the war going so he could stay out of the criminal court cases by saying, I can't go, I got wars. And it's just going to be, we're going to have another third year of wars. And, you know, he hates the people. Look what the people did to me. Well, look what you did to the people, you piece of garbage. You lie to them about who you are and how you were born. And everything else. You're just a rotten, stinking piece of garbage from the word go. And he doesn't see himself that way. He sees himself as a god because the demons tell him that. He's a moron, like all of them that serve the demons. They're dumb. Or why would they do it? You see what I'm saying? How about a message like this? Satan goes, oh, serve me. You'll have a great 70 or 80 years, and then you'll have billions of years of torment in the lake of fire. Isn't it worth it? See what I'm saying? Satan can't tell the truth. Not billions of years, not trillions of years, everlasting forever and ever. It never stops. They're in the lake of fire forever and ever and ever. And why would God do that to them? Because they're that mean and rotten. Couldn't God just put them in a place where they got shanty shacks and they, can grow vegetables and wear raggedy clothes? And yeah, if he wanted to punish them that way, I'm sure he could do it. No, he gives them the lake of fire because they're that mean and rotten. See, what it's like with them, with their silly parlor tricks, witchcraft, it's like they get in a boxing ring with an opponent. The opponent would be a non-believer or a church person or some, which is a non-believer or something like that. And church people are not true believers. They don't follow the gospel. They don't follow the right Yeshua. Why aren't they under convictions? Yeah, they're not real believers. So he would broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it. Straight and narrow is the correct path, and few find it. So when you see these churches with 1,000, 2, 3, 4,000 people coming in on Sunday, come on, they got a service in the morning early at 8 o'clock. They got an 11 o'clock, and they got a 6 o'clock service. Come on. Anyway, I'm just ranting. So, yeah, that's not real, So it's sad, So we can try to get the people out of churchianity. One of the things I need to tell you, I don't know if I did, is we have no place to bring the people. So I don't advocate running around the streets and preaching, although you could, and it would be okay if you did, and there's nothing wrong with it, but we have no place to bring the people. And yet, so when this is me talking, not the Lord, when you preach to the people who come out of churchianity, and they do, they're seasoned and they know enough of what they shouldn't do and should do, and they're going to study more and want more help with the law and things like that. Not that they need to know, don't get drunk, don't shoot heroin, don't rob a bank, don't fornicate, don't go to strip joints, don't watch porn, don't lie to people, don't cheat people, don't beat people up. They know all this stuff, right? So it's easier to help them, than it is somebody just coming in cold that was going to an ashram or worshiping the woman with the 8 arm statue in Hinduism. You got to take them through a real big cycle, and without a house to take them to or people to take them to, it'd be pretty hard, I think. I don't know, but God can do anything. So I don't know. So anyway, I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out. And I don't mean that I'm going to stop doing the broadcasts, by the way, when I say another source of money. I'm not going in that direction whatsoever. That's not what I mean. Okay, I'm out. Thanks.